lot of complicated issues that New Jersey is facing. Governor Whitman, what will you be looking for the candidates to address throughout the campaign into the fall?
Well, obviously, number one is taxes. It always is in this state, and that's going to continue to be. How do we balance the budget? We have a huge deficit now, and I don't think we've seen the proper steps or any steps really taken to address that in a fiscally responsible way. We have real challenges ahead of us for those candidates. Infrastructure is going to be another huge issue, and that's something that people face every day. Those two issues are really going to be the drivers, I believe, because those are the issues that affect people where they live and how they live.
What will you be following, Governor Florio?
Well, in some respects, the issues are the same issues we've been talking about for the last 30 years. So it's really not so much what issues we're talking about, but how we talk about them. The problems become so huge that we're going to have to really change our way of speaking about them. People, candidates particularly, are going to have to start being willing to tell the truth about issues. People are getting tired of being fudged. People are tired of being yanked around. In the presidential election we just went through, people were looking for specificity. So President Trump gave them specificity. Going to build a wall. Mexico's going to pay for it. Coal miners are going to go back to work. None of that's going to happen, so we have that much more cynicism. But people have to, and candidates in this election are going to have to be willing to go tell people hard things, because there are no easy answers at all.
Will voters demand that, do you think, in this election of the candidates, to talk about real solutions? I don't know if they will demand it, but the candidates should feel a burden upon themselves to be out there, not jerking people around anymore. You're going to have to tell them the alternatives are not good, not easy. They're going to be all painful. We've got to pick the least painful to go forward. You know, you talk about least painful, but is there a need for revenue raising in order to handle some of these complicated issues?
I don't see how you do it without it. We are at a point now where I think you're going to have to. Now, there are ways to raise revenues that you can move some money around, maybe change some others within the tax structure so the burden isn't quite as bad on people. They won't get hit quite as hard, because it's tough to stay in this state right now. The tax situation is a real burden on people, but there are going to have to be some revenue raising in order to address these issues. I don't see how you do it otherwise.
I mean, I've been on the soapbox for a couple of years now saying we don't have a spending problem, we have a revenue problem. The problems that we have, unaffordable higher education, health care, people not having coverage, infrastructure, all of them, we're not providing too much money for those things, providing too little money. And therefore we've got to be in a position to go get the revenues in order to deal with those things.
So with the gubernatorial election, New Jersey, one of two states, Virginia the other, electing a governor this year, will we hear really candid talk about the issues, the complicated issues New Jersey's facing, do you think, from these candidates?
Well, that's where the media is going to come in. That's where the media is going to come in to push and to demand for those kinds of answers, and that will get the public. The public wants to know. They may not like what they hear, but I have found over the course of my career that if you tell them the truth, they may not like it, but as long as they believe you and they believe you really are being honest with them and you're facing these issues head on, they appreciate that. The public does want to think that maybe you can solve these problems, but they know deep down, they know there's no easy answer to any of this. It doesn't mean pricing them out of their homes, but it's going to take some real thought to how do you balance the revenue needs with the spending needs.
Can a high bar be set and met?
Well, I think we can set a high bar, but we have to have reality built into the process. Most of the problems I've talked about, just the ones I've just talked about, higher education, infrastructure, health care, if this Affordable Care Act is repealed, that'll result in 50 million people not having health insurance. These are not state problems, they're national problems for the most part. So we're going to have to start thinking about where we get funding to deal with these national problems. And that may very well be that we have to go to Washington, start talking about a carbon tax, broad-based taxes, to raise revenues to get back to the states. That's the first blush to say, how can you really even think about that seriously? But we have to think about it seriously because there really is an alternative. You're not going to be able to deal with these things state by state by state.
Governor Florio, Governor Whitman, having walked down these roads before, we appreciate your views on this topic. Thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.